me before I met him. So it was like, I guess I was about 3 when I could really remember anything about him. But I guess I was about 3 years old when I could remember some things that maybe he was doing from there up. But see, my grandfather was always a farmer. And now this is on my mother's side now. I never was around my grandfather on my daddy's side. And frankly speaking, I never was around my daddy because I don't really remember my daddy and my mother living together. Because I guess I mean, was so young whenever they separated or whatever. But now, we was around my grandparents most of my life, you know, until I grew up. And then we moved from my grandparents back in 48, 49. And then we were living down south. My mother, my sister, myself. And we were living over at Fridays Park. Then my grandfather built a house over there. My uncle really built the house, had the house built. And then he left and went north, and my grandfather took it over from there. And in other words, I was around my grandparents most of my life. Now, okay, you need to get a start from something else. You asked me about my grandfather, right? Okay, you putting it down? I hope you putting it on something.
Yes, I have to.
It's right here, your face.
Right here.
It's recording, Mr.
Yes.
Do what?
They can, it's like a recording. Like if you look at it, you know, he's recording what you're saying.
Well, maybe you might want to. You might want to raise that out what I told you, because I went around through Bud's farm before I told you what you're asking me about.
You're fine.
You're fine. You can just tell me everything.
Huh?
You can tell me everything. I'll work.
Well, the only thing about it, when you asked me about my grandfather, like I was saying, I was around him as long as I could really remember anything. And then after I grew up, maybe I was like 12 years old, and then my mother, we moved into a house, you know. And from there, I never did live with him anymore, but I was always close around him, you know. And he was a person that, he wasn't well educated, but he had wisdom though, you know. And he was a person that, he was pretty firm about things. And like I said, we were living on a farm until I was about 13 years old.
What type of farm?
Huh?
What type of farm?
Cotton.
Cotton.
Yeah, cotton, corn, and a farmer, period. That's the way it was. Yeah, but it was mostly cotton. And I can remember one year when I got old enough to remember, my grandfather had 32 bales of cotton one year. And I mean, that was a lot of cotton, a lot of cotton. And then that was the most I ever known him to have, the 32 bales in one year. But he was always a farmer up until 1948. He quit farming and went to work for Acres Motor Line. And then that's, of course, now at that time I wasn't living with him then. We were living not far from them. But anyway, 1948, maybe 49, whatever, he gave up the farming. And my uncle, he was in the Second World War, Charles Boozer. And he came out of the service and he started farming for this guy called Johnny Smith. And I think he only done it for like maybe 2 years, and he got away from it. So then he left and went some north or somewhere for a while. And but anyway, my mother worked in the Gadsden General Hospital for numerous years as a nurse. And like I said, I never did really remember living with my father, you know. But is there anything else you need to know about my grandfather?
Oh, no. But now I need to know, what was your childhood like? How was your childhood?
How was my childhood?
Yes.
like a normal child, you know. We had what we had, and what we didn't have, we did without, you know.
You had chores, you worked on the farm.
Yo,
Did you have chores? Did you work on the farm? You say you grew up on the farm. Did you work on the farm?
my children. No.
Did you come
Yeah, yeah. I worked on the farm, plowed a mule. Yeah, pick cotton, hoe cotton. Just a farm boy, country boy. But after, in 1949 was the last farming that was ever did. And everybody then, like, publicly, you know, public worker and stuff like that. And in 1953 was the last year I was in school. And then I went to work for the city of Gastonia. Yeah, and from that on I've been working.
Working. So, you know. So, you didn't have a lot, but, you know, what you dealt with that, you know, a lot.
Well, we had food and a place to stay. But as far as having a plenty, no, I mean, I didn't have a lot of money now. But people didn't have money back then. Wasn't a lot of money. That's when people lived in the country on a farm. There wasn't a lot of money revolving because people mostly raised what they ate, you know. A lot of times we would buy small items, but most of the time we had the garden and canned vegetables and stuff like that. It lasts all the year. You might have like 300 or 400 jars of food, you know. And it was, I think we done well. We wasn't the poorest of poor, but we was poor enough though. So now, what else you need to know about my grandfather now?
Oh, yeah, I basically got what I wanted. Thanks. I got what I need.
Well, you read that, what you got on there.
It says, you must have wrong part. Record your great-grandparents or grandparents talking about what they remember about their grandparents.
Oh, okay. So now you're talking to your grandfather and what you want to know about your great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
Okay. So he was a farmer, like I said, up until 1948, I believe it was.
So you would have been about 13 or 14 years old at that point.
Yeah, but they left. He went to work for Acres Motor Line. My grandfather did. My mother, she worked at Gaston General Hospital for, Lord, I can't remember how long. That was back in the 40s when she went to work there. And my mother never did really work on the farm. She's always done like, she worked for the people that call her all wise until she went to the hospital, went to work at Gaston General Hospital. And she went to Chicago, went to school in Chicago. And she graduated from nursing school in Chicago and she came back here. Okay. And she worked for like, the last people nurses she did was private nursing. And it was really the all wise. She worked for them for years because taking care of their grandmother and whatever it was, you know. But I didn't really come up no more until like 15 years old. I say I was going on 15 years old when they left the farm, period. But I was 12 years old and I could plow a mule. I could. So we was really country, you know. My grandfather, he was a person that, you know, for him, like I said, he wasn't well educated, but he had a lot of wisdom. And that wasn't, back then, that was something that was very valuable. Somebody to have a lot of wisdom, you know, and knowledge. And like I said, he wasn't school knowledge so much of it, but he just had had a lot of wisdom. And in other words, I think he did great.
And where did you all live, Mr. Mooney? Where was this at? Where was this at, this farm?
Where was this at?
The farm?
It was Well, when we left Shelby, I was very, very young. I was like maybe about I think 11 or 12 when we left Shelby. And we moved to Dallas. And we was in the Dallas area until I got married at 18 years old. I was 18 years old when I got married. So just right out of school, right to the marriage. And then I used to do a lot of like little yard work and stuff like that until I got old enough and I went to work for the city. I worked for the city for like maybe 5 or 6 years, and I drove a truck for quite a few years. Then I used to drive a long distance truck for maybe 10 years, and then back to local trucking, and it was just one thing after another. But it was like, you know, a lot of times you look back over and think about the things that you came through, and then think, so, well, you know, I was very fortunate. At least I survived, you know. And I wasn't somebody that making most of my lifetime in prison or something, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And I always wanted to look forward to my children, grandchildren, moving ahead in life, you know. And take it from an example, like, you don't want to go backwards. You want to always go forward. And in order for you to move forward and be successful, you got to do what you're hoping you're doing now, and that's getting it up here. Get an education. And the main thing it is, with an education and being humble, that is the greatest thing can ever be. Is always be humble, be firm, and get that education. That is the main important parts. Because, see, when I came along, you wouldn't have been able to, at your age now, you had to come along that way. You probably wouldn't be able to make it, you know, because of the fact that you wouldn't deal with the situation like hard work. I've done some hard work in my life, yeah. But the main thing it is, the better education that you get now, the better off you will be in the future. And the only thing you definitely don't want to do is get with the wrong young fellas, you know. It's doesn't have not going somewhere. If they don't mean them good, you don't hang around, you know, because of the fact that that wouldn't be good for your future.
Right.
But if you get that up in here, get them books, get that education, that personality, man, you'd be surprised what you can do in life.
Well, thank you for your time.
Is that all you wanted?
That's all.
Boy, I hated I was so scattered about it.
You're fine.
If I'd known that, we might have could have put it on some kind of computer or something. But the only you got it on that though, ain't you?
Yeah.
Oh boy, you don't want to play it over though, do you?
Excuse me?
He said you don't want to play it over.
You don't want to play it over, do you?
I'll hear what you said.
Huh?
I'll just listen to it a couple times.
Yeah. And the main thing it is, pick out the best part and erase the bad part.
Thanks.
Well, tell me something. I hear, how's you doing in school?
Doing fine.
Good. Okay, what about you?
Good.
You doing good?
Yeah.
You know